Uh-huh. I'll repeat it. It's a privilege for me to make a lecture in Bhandarkar Research Institute, one of the best places of academic research of and Sanskrit studies, and also the place which has an invaluable treasury of manuscripts. I wondered, what shall I speak about? And I thought that it will be more interesting to choose something special among various fields and subfields of my scholarly interest. So I'll speak about the visual sources as contributing to the doctrinal content. It's self-evident that the absolute majority of the content of the conceptions and so on are being transmitted by words, by texts. But other channels are not excluded. We as human beings have three channels, except of the speech as the main channel. We also have the visual channel and a kinesthetic channel, which is well known, for example, for all those who know something, are a bit acquainted with the Indian theater, because all mudras are the kinesthetic channel of the content. Well, although the concrete object of my investigations belong to Buddhist tradition, please don't think that Buddhism plays the main role. The main role plays the formal aspect. That it is, I ask and I want to, and I have a ready answer. How can we suppose a conceptual content in a visual image, in a drawing, or in a picture, and what it can add to our knowledge, or perhaps even to the tradition, which was not transmitted by texts and by concepts. In general, I would be able to speak 2 hours and more, but it is a bit more, a bit long. So I'll briefly say that there are three examples. First of them is the set of Vajrayana, that is tantric Buddhist drawings of mandalas, which first, they definitely disclose us the structure of the 5 skandhas, because reading only the texts, one remains perplexed. Everybody in the Buddhist texts, beginning with the Pali Canon and the Mahayana texts in Sanskrit, seem to understand everything about the 5 skandhas. They do not ask any questions, but we do understand almost nothing, and we can't understand why they understand it. And only the graphic, the visual image can give us the and resolve us this riddle. Briefly speaking, in the very core of a mandala, we have a cross with 5 components, yes, and with the vertical and horizontal axis, and each end of each axis is depicted in a peculiar color. For in the upper corner, up is the red, down is blue, or down is either blue or white. So therefore, in center is vice versa, either white or blue. In the right side we see green, and in the left side we see yellow, and they represent the 5 skandhas. And it can be shown, published also in English, but without any drawings, that with support of these drawings we can definitely establish the structure of these 5 skandhas. which I'll briefly say. But first, we must ask ourselves why there are 5 skandhas, not possibly 4 or 7. The drawing gives us answer. There are 2 pairs of opposites, and the 5th member, which is in the center and makes these 2 pairs a whole, a totality. And these 2, the vertical axis corresponds to one of the fundamental functions of our mind, the horizontal axis to the other. The vertical axis corresponds to that aspect, that in every moment of our conscious living, we have some content in our conscious which came from some sensual source, and it is the sensual source is that which is to be understood, and the result of the understanding, the ready-made sense, is the content of the consciousness. First is called rupa, the second is called sanjna, and it is one fundamental function of the mind, and its vertical axis. The other fundamental action of the mind, activity, is to organize activity, yes. So to be either passive when the surroundings, the other human and non-human beings act on me, or being active, acting on the surroundings and other beings. The passive side is represented, it is yellow, by Vedana. What is Vedana? It is Anubhava. Anubhava is passive. I can also, certainly I can procure for me the sources of my pleasure, but then they act and not me. So I am passive, yes. And the second, the opposite side, the yellow side, are sanskaras. That is the active dispositions which produce karma. The chief of them, the main of them is, as well known, Chaitana. And karma is defined by Vasubandhu as Chaitana karma, Chaitayatvacha karma. So this active and passive side, and all in the center, it is vijnana, as you say here in Maharashtra, yes, and it is not at all consciousness, as almost unanimously is said in the Buddhist studies. It is the act of transcendental choice. That is, in order to see something and to understand what is seen, in order to have opportunity to be pleased or not by what's seen, and to plan an action, I have to switch to the I channel, because I was, for example, immersed in listening music. And this transcendental choice, I mean, I use this word in that sense that it is the necessary condition without which there is no experience, no anubhava. It's transcendental according to Immanuel Kant. And this act or this type of acts within us was totally unknown to all European philosophy. It was ignored because it is not at all needed to know it. If one has not, unless one has the task to get rid of samsara, because vijnana as the necessary precondition of every samsaric, that's dual experience, has to be investigated and transformed. It is transformed during the Buddhist yoga into jnana. That's a non-dual presence. And so we have here due to these drawings, a ready conceptual scheme of the self-observation of the Buddhist yogi. Well, also must notice that it is not a theory of a human being. It is almost always presented in the Buddhology, because other human beings are not the objects of interest for the Buddhist thinkers. I am of the interest, and other Buddhist yogis who adopt this scheme as a scheme of self-observation. Others do not need it. They need, for example, some other schemes, for example, psychoanalytical scheme or other variances, which aim to remain in samsara to make it better, but not to get rid of samsara. Yes. And so it is this fivefold scheme, this cross with the center, is a specific device for the Buddhist Indian yogi to get rid of samsara and to get rid of his scheme of self-experiencing in a dual frame, me and not me as a milieu. And that's why it is said in Buddhist texts that the Bhagavan Buddha, has no skandhas. It is either mysterious or absurd if we think that the five skandhas are objectified theory of us. No, it is a device of getting rid of samsara, because the Buddha is present for others, but he is not in samsara himself. The skandhas cannot be applied, this method cannot be applied to him. No more are by skandhas characterized, for example, Muslims or atheists, because they do not want to know about it at all. They have their own schemes, which which are apt for their purposes. But that's my first example. But I stress once more, but that without this, not belonging to the early epoch, but still belonging to the tradition, because without the drawings, our task of understanding why there are proposed five skandhas could have been unsolvable. So they add something. Now, the other rather interesting example is concerns the mythologized biography of the Buddha. Generally speaking, the hagiographic narratives of the Buddha are not at all lacking in Buddhist literature. In Pali tradition, we can mention the Avidura Nidanam, not so distant made cause, yes, which is the introductory part of Jatakas. In Sanskrit, we know the Lalita Vistara, which is one of the 9 dharmas in the Nepali Buddhism. Also, there are versions by authors, for example, Ashwaghoshas, Buddha Charita, and others. In West, there is also Sir Edwin Arnold's The Light of Asia, and so on. But but these are comparatively early accounts of the Buddha's mythologized biography. But extremely interesting for me is a notion of the so-called 12 great deeds of the Buddha, Dvadasha Buddha Karya. It became quite widespread. It particularly is widely known in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. It remains popular with modern Buddhist teachers teaching in the West. There is also an iconography of these 12 great deeds or acts. But we shall ask and try to find the answer. Why does it include, this list does include such deeds or such episodes of the Buddha's biography, and with others excluded? First of all, I'll name briefly them. They are 12, which certainly must, as a hint, remind us of the calendar and of 12 months within a year. And also it is, I think, can be proved that the Pratitya Samutpada, with its 12 limbs, also is partly a mnemonic device to understand the Buddhist theory of causality, because everybody in these early times knew the calendar, and the scheme can be used pedagogically, not theoretically. Well, then, so the concise description and enumeration of these deeds. Staying in the Tushita heaven, Bodhisattva decides to be born for the last time. That's number one. Then, two, he enters his mother's womb. That's the conception takes place. That's the Queen Maya's dream, and it corresponds to the Buddhist. It corresponds to the Christian Annunciation, certainly. Then, third, the future Buddha is born, immediately performing some miracles. At number three. Four, in his youth, the Siddhartha Gautama acquires all the knowledge, the skill expected from the heir of the throne, demonstrates it to the residents of the Shakya capital. And the second, after being married, the young Gautama is quite happy and content in the company of the beautiful or young wife, as well of dancers, singers, and musicians in his retinue. I'll mention, it is not a deed at all. It's not great, neither not great. It is rejoicing in life. Yes. Second, the next one. Siddhartha accomplishes the great exodus. But he escapes from the capital and having the aim to find the answer why we are being born, why we must die, why we have diseases, and why we are aging. And then, in the company of several young ascetics, partly alone, he makes severe tapasya, the self-torture, starves, spends his night in the coldest places and spends the day in the hottest places, and so on. Then, second, the next. On the evening of the full moon of the Vaishakha month, he decides to sit down under the tree and not to get up until he solves his problem or dies. The next one. On the same night, also I stress it, but there were some years of happy life, but now we have three deeds during the same night. On the same night, he repels the attack of the Mara's gang, who tried to drive him away and prevent meditation and attainment of Buddhahood. Then, in the morning or at dawn, he finds the final answer to his question and thereby acquires the highest full awakening, Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Then, after some 2 months, about a bit, roughly, he sets the wheel of the Dharma in motion, Dharma Chakra Pavartanam. He found the tradition. Why it found the tradition? Because one of the hearers understood him at once. Now, if there is, he became Shravaka, so we have the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. It is tradition as a whole. And second, at the age, and now it was at the age of 35, yes? And no other great deeds, or only at the age of 84 or 80, it depends on tradition, he enters the final nirvana. So all his pedagogical activity is missed. Why? So, well, and then, so we'll pose some questions. So the events are separated from one from another by incommensurably different time intervals. First, yes, no time passed from the decision to the conception, then naturally 10 months within the womb, and then until perhaps 16 years. Then he was married until 29 years. He was happy. Then 1 day of his flight. Then 6 years of tapasya. Then three events during one night in Vaishakha. Then after 2 months, his first sermon, or his first lecture, as I prefer to say, and then nothing. except the final nirvana. What has been omitted? For example, once in the city of Shravasti, in the presence of numerous witnesses, he performed the Yamaka Patiharya. It is not mentioned. Then the four, so to say, the four significant meetings with the dead, with the old, are not mentioned. Then his great deed that he tamed at once the fierce bandit Angulimala, who murdered 99 people. It is not mentioned, as well as the fact that he tamed the fierce elephant. And he twice he saved the Shakya tribe from extermination. Also, it is not mentioned. He made many great deeds, but everything is omitted. Why? So then, so we make a constatation. It is not a list of the main exploits of the hero. It's something else. Neither it is a list of the or summary of the results of the activity of a great mind. We know this sum. There are four. For example, the Pratitya Samutpada, the Vinaya, and the enumeration of all possible metaphysical positions in the Brahmajala, also one. So it is not matter here. What is interesting? What was interesting? What was the interest of those who conceived these dozen? Yes, we know that the dozen is in archaic times not rather widely used to organize the material. First, one example, just one example. In the conversation of Yajnavalkya with Maitreya about immortality in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there are 12 steps. First, the spouse, the wife, the brahmatvam, the pashu, and so on. And the last step is everything at all. And there are also other examples. I say spouse, wife, sons, property, cattle, varna of Brahmins, varna of Kshatriyas, worlds, gods, Vedas, beings, anything. Well, a dozen. The same technique is adopted in also in other cultures. Well, now really some of these links, some of these great deeds have perhaps vague, perhaps more precise correspondence with some of the limbs of the Pratitya Samutpada, but not it is the point. And the point will because the point is as follows. I see. Stop. The all first, the Buddha, being the great man, the Uttama Purusha, shows other beings the example how to live. First, how to lead worldly life, and then how to transcend worldly life and get out of the world at all. For example, first, all samsaric beings wander through samsara blindly, being drawn by karma. They do not know where they will be born and do not control it. But the great man has a clear in a clear mind, in a clear consciousness, decides where to be born and is able to fulfill his intention. For example, all beings enter the mother's womb in a vague state of consciousness, not understanding what is happening. But the great man intentionally carries out his conception in the womb of his mother, named Maya. That all are in illusion, but he is in Maya. His mother is Maya. It's deliberately contrasted. So everybody sees. Or, for example, all people are born in a fight against with the mother birth channel. It's life. It's a fight for life and death. But the great man is born peacefully, without torment and tension. It is said, and says something. Then, well, ordinary people prepare themselves for their life in different ways, and it happens to them so and so. And the great man was born and raised for the highest possible field. Astrologers predicted that he will become either the good emperor of the whole world, or the whole Jambudvipa, or the discoverer of the spiritual world. Yes. At his youth, he showed that he was perfectly prepared for the first task. And why did he escape? He wanted to prepare for the second task. And now let's I'll go to the symmetry, because it's sorry, stop. Well, we can if we paint a circle and put every deed on on the rib of the circle, according to 12, 1, 2, 2, 3, and so on, we have a calendar of 12 symbolical months in a symbolical year. What is symbolical year? It is the complete life of the Gautama, the Buddha, who became Shakyamuni. The year is divided according to the old Indian calendar to the Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. Shukla Paksha is from December to June, and from June to December is the Krishna Paksha. Yes, and during the first Shukla Paksha, it can be said it is pravritti. The Buddha performed pravritti dharma. He expanded his worldly activity. During the second, he expounded the nirvritti dharma. He not worldly activity, and which the consummation of which was the parinirvana. And the consummation of the first half was the great flight. Yes. And we have a symmetry of two kinds. The first is as follows. If we take take a number of one of the so-called great deeds, understand it, then plus 6, that is half a year. And understand this, we have partly an opposition and partly a coincidence. And that's the proof that this calendar scheme, and it can be only shown, certainly not only because because I speak about it, but aptly can be shown, is the salvation of this rather abstruse riddle. Well, let's take a pair, for example. The common feature of his decision to leave Tushita heaven and the end of his flight. A common feature is, in order to achieve the goal set for oneself, a rejection, a renunciation of pleasant essential benefits is carried out. Certainly, the Tushita heaven, as the name says, that is full of pleasures. But it was renounced by the Bodhisattva. And as it was renounced by Gautama Siddhartha when he flew from his palace. Thus, so the rejection of the well-being of the heaven is first, and then the rejection of most ordinary satisfaction of body, as in is tapasya, is the second. Then, what is the difference? In the first case, the rejection of favor of the earth, of heaven in favor of earth, downward orientation. In the second, the rejection of ordinary earthy prosperity, to go beyond both earthy and even heavenly prosperity. So it is upward orientation. Then Number two, the conception. The tree and number 8, he sat under the Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree, the sitting down in Bodhi tree is a symbolical conception, because if we the tree of awakening is understood as the womb from which the Buddha will be born. In the early Buddhist reliefs in Sanchi, the highly stylized image of this tree is strikingly similar to the actual shape of the placenta. At the end, it attaches to the uterine wall. You can see it, yes. In the first case, a mundane person is conceived. In the second, a not mundane and not human, but a Buddha is conceived. Now, number 3 and number 9. So birth is number 3 was birth. Birth is a serious test accompanied by mortal danger. But also no less serious was the test of the Mara's assault. But also he didn't fight with Mara as he didn't fight when he was a newborn child in the mother's birth channel. But he reacted by Maitri. And Mara was quite disappointed. That's then Mara tried to temptate it by his 3 daughters, Rati and others, and Passion and so on. And then the second, the complete the second pair. First, the fourth great deed was the expediency in all possibilities of proficiency in all skills due to the hair of the kingdom. Now, in the what is number 10? In the number 10, in the second case, the main philosophical discovery was made by the Buddha. The causal structure of samsara was discovered. It is the proficiency necessary for being a Buddha and to teach. It was immediately applied by the newborn as a Buddha to himself, and it turned out that this discovery worked. The law of reproduction was abolished, and thus it remained only to find those who need this knowledge and who will be able to understand. It took some 2 months. Yes. Then he found his comrades. Yes. Then here, well, the number 5 and number 11. Number 5 is the young heir of the kingdom, Siddhartha Gautama, is prosperous around the beautiful young women who play musical instruments, who sing, and who dance. So he is in the center of the situation, and he is passive, and he is given by these young women worldly good and world pleasure. And in the first sermon, he also is in the center, but the hero is active. He preaches, and he teaches what can give a super worldly good and pleasure, explains the way to realize nirvana, and only men listen to him. There were only women artists. Now, in the last pair, death is in a philosophical, not narrowly biological sense, is parting forever, departure forever. When a young prince driven through the city, accidentally for the first time in his life, saw a funeral procession, he, not understanding what was happening, asked for explanation from the charioteer. But the charioteer gave a typical Buddhist, so to say, a phenomenological explanation. He said, the death means that neither they will see him again, nor he will see them again. It is not a spiritual explanation. For example, the soul went away, or not a materialistic explanation. Everything is finished, but it is a phenomenological explanation. So it is departure forever from this world. And now, in this was the first Buddha irreversibly was dead for the world when he renounced his career as a king and escaped from Kapilavastu. Is the first thing. And the second, it is the definite death, not only for this concrete life, but for the samsara as such, and it is represented by parinirvana. So it is worldly death and superworldly death. So in every case, we have a pair of opposites. But why they are opposites? Because they are something quite evident in common. And the first one is for the Shukla Paksha, and the second part is Krishna Paksha. And it is, and the circle is completed, and the example for all other human beings is also completed. And that is that these are not the great deeds. This is mythological scheme of how to understand the great man as such. But it can be all, once again, we have iconographical representations in the Tibetan traditions. They do not follow this scheme. They do not have the symmetry of the circle. So I think you will agree with me, but that I have not invented what I said. I have seen it. Yes, it is not the product of my mind. So why did the tradition forget? Why it had forgotten its own achievements? I think that the plausible answer is that the transmission of the visual content is much more fragile than the conceptual methods. And so in other cases as well, it can be shown that the tradition gave, perhaps tentatively, perhaps not not quite resolute, but a very interesting conception. But then it loses it, and it is not understood by the present followers of the tradition. But I collaborate for 2 years with the Russian Buddhist painter who is preparing an icon according to this scheme. These 12 great deeds will be depicted according to the cycle. And now, whether we have a now, I'll also only name the third theme that I also would have been able to discuss. That there is a rather popular image. One can't name it strictly a tanka or an icon because it has nothing sacred in it. It is the image of the samsara chakra, in which there are, among others, the 6 sectors which represent 6 gatis, shadgateh, of the karma loka. And also in it is enciphered. It is a shifra of the symmetry group of the interaction between the samsaric being, its aroundment as a concrete gati, and the karma. Just one instance. In every of these gatis, there is represented with his message a Buddha with a special attribute and a special color, and the more bright for our vision is the color of this Buddha, the more prosperous is the gati. So to be precise, the Buddha in the heavens is of the is like a sun, like the sun at the midtime, in the middle of the day. It is on the border of the yellowish and greenish, because at the sunset we see it orange. It grows more yellow, and it is insupportable for us to look at it. And it is the brightest color ever seen, and it is on the border of the green and of the yellow. Then on the opposite, it also the symmetry. On the opposite, it is the Buddha appears in Narakas in Dhumra color. What's Dhumra color? Almost always it is translated as smoke. It is erroneous. It is purple. Also, Apte confirms it. What is purple? Purple is the color of the at night of the fire which is half extinct. Yes. And then the asuras are associated with green color. The pretas are there at the opposite side of the diameter, others are associated with the tint of the red color. The humans are associated with yellow color, and the animals with blue color. And blue and yellow, green and red are complementary. And also we can, out of this scheme, evolve, understand the abstract feature of each of the 6 gatis. I'll name only 2 opposites. The existential feature of our human gati. We can make of ourselves, of our life, whatever we want. We have free will, and we have reason. And on the opposite side, there are animals. And the law of the animal existence is always, for any animal, there is another animal or a human being who makes out of it what he wants. Now, I and others, that's a position. And let's make another example. What's the principle of the heavenly existence? Everything is the best. This world is a best miracle. The world is the best of the possible worlds. What is the law of the Naraka existence? Everything is the worst it can be. And the being in hell is a identity of life, death, old age, disease, and aversion, and it has no objects at all, because it is only aversion, not. But the law of the heavenly existence is yes, and also me. Yes. And so everything this is shown in this picture. I published in Russian an article on it, but I'm sorry, I'm sure that nobody adhering to the Buddhist tradition is able to do this, because the visual sense is rather fragile. But we have to be, as scholars, I'm a scholar and a Buddhist, we have to be attentive to the visual channel and to decipher very useful information and conceptual some conceptual decisions which are absent or were always absent in texts. Thank you for your attention.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question actually.
But I think it can be a stupid question still.
Yeah, if one doesn't pose a stupid question, his stupidity remains with him.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're welcome.
So Shukla Paksha is followed by Krishna Paksha.
Yes.
But then Krishna Paksha should be followed by Shukla Paksha again. How does it fit into your concept?
But because the conceptual elaboration of these two pakshas is, first is worldly and it is repetitive. Second is overworldly and it is ultimate.
So in this case, there's only one cycle.
Yes, it is one cycle. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, after Shukla Paksha, Krishna Paksha comes.
It is for samsaric beings, but not for the great man, but for the Buddha. Huh?
Eternal Krishna Paksha.
Yes.
Basically, I would like to ask another type of question. As Indian philosophy has got an Atma.
Yes.
Buddhism or Shravan philosophy has got karma. So there is a difference. So what is karma? Which again takes place where in Hindu Atma takes.
Well, Atma is not within the scope of karma, certainly. Karma, you see, for example, the Sankhya philosophy and the Nyaya philosophy, all they all they agree that the karma exists, but the Atma persists. Yes. Well, see, I think that both. I also wrote an article, but it's also in Russian, about the Atman and Anatman. But both Atman in Upanishads and Anatma in the dialogues of the Buddha are not objectified theories. They are devices intended for the apt students to work with one's own consciousness and to discover oneself. And we certainly within samsara, what is karma? Karma is coincides with samsara, certainly. And what is karma according to the Buddha? It is the very substance of the samsaric living. And it is dynamic. But after getting rid of samsara and of karma, the Shravakas enter into the nirvana, and Buddha obstinately refused to explain what it is, because it was certainly was strictly only pedagogical, because if he depicts nirvana as something enviable and beautiful, then one will strive for nirvana, but a strive for nirvana cannot lead to nirvana. If he depicts it as something abhorrible, one wouldn't strive for nirvana, so he remains in samsara, which is quite useless to say anything about nirvana, except that it persists at its amrita, yes, amrita. And also, he didn't say definitely that there is no atma. There is no such passage in the whole canon. There came and somebody, he said, my Atma is so and so, I believe in Atma. Buddha wants to some precision. What do you understand under Atma? What is your Atma? This is my Atma, said the opponent. Well, it doesn't correspond to the notion of Atma, said the Buddha. He didn't deny whether the reality of this notion is, but no, in none of the cases, anybody was able to present him the reality which corresponds to this notion. Strictly speaking, the Buddha Padmasambhava clearly says that Atma and non-Atma are the alternative devices to come to Buddhahood or to awakening. And we can't, it's perhaps a natural but very naive question. Who has right, whether Atmavadins or Anatmavadins? But I think that strictly speaking, it can't be answered correctly, because let's suppose if we peruse all this literature for millennia or more of the disputes between Buddhists and Nayayikas and chiefly Nayayikas on this theme, we first, it wasn't finished because the Buddhists disappeared, not due to Nayayikas, but due to one Turkish general from India. Second, we can't be sure that on one or the both sides the argumentations has been exhausted. Secondly, certainly there something was lost. Thirdly, secondly, in both sides certainly there are some follies. So it is only by chance, and I can't think that I am more perspicacious and more clever than all the Buddhist and non-Buddhist philosophers to solve this question intellectually. Maybe other will come, he will be still more intelligent. So it doesn't work. Then let's try to solve this question empirically. I am Buddhist. I adopt the Buddhist marga. I successfully become Buddha. Then I try to become a samsaric being and to adopt the Upanishadic marga and to become the Jivan Mukta. And then I remember my first result and can compare. It's just absurd, because both the Upanishadic marga and the Buddhist marga are irreversible. So what it rests to me, there are some witnesses from both sides, both the Hindu side and the Buddhist side, which say about it. For example, in the Buddhist side, we read some phrases of the Buddha Padmasambhava, who said that the Atma, or Vedanta, and the Anatma are the different means for the same goal. But we can't mix the means. We can't be halfly Atmavadin, halfly Anatmavadin. We choose one or the second marga, and if we succeed both. And secondly, what we can see and witness some discussions or speeches or meetings of the consummate masters from the both sides. For example, I saw and read about the meeting of the Nisargadatta Maharaja from the Vedantin side and Chukini Rinpoche from the Buddhist side. They were extremely fond of each other's. They laugh, they understand hints and sub-hints, and we sit as asses and understand nothing because we are samsaric beings. Although maybe we are very intelligent, but we are within samsara, and they are not within samsara. So they acknowledge each other. This the preliminary answer. The ultimate answer is to realize.
I have no questions.
You have no questions.
So it's such an exhaustive and
Interesting.
interesting, full of contents lecture. It should only be only written down.
По-русски у меня есть 2 статьи, простите, просто.
Okay.
It's being recorded.
Окей. Тогда там отключи, пожалуйста. Окей. Так, вопросы, пожалуйста, есть ли, может быть, у слушателей? Наталья, Катерина.
Вот еще что. Да, русским коллегам могу сказать, что и про области сансары 6 уделов, и про 12 деяний Будды у меня эти статьи, они просто опубликованы. А вот первая – это обширнейшая тема, потому что таких 5, ну, штук 100. И это будет только.
Спасибо, было очень
Наташ,
интересно.
вопрос, да?
Да.
Я буду.
Нет, у
Рада
меня-
вас видеть.
Да.
А вот Наталья Ростиславовна вопрос задает. Минуточку сейчас. Наталья Ростиславовна, сейчас 2 секунды. Ага, пожалуйста.
Да. Спасибо, было очень интересно, очень концентрированно по мысли. Меня только заботит одна вещь. Я никогда не встречала сакральность числа 12 в связи с мандалой. Даже если мы представим себе, да, что есть всегда выделенные 4 части мандалы, где поклоняются локопалам, и которые отмечают основные части света, то они всегда дополняются центром, и это 12 плюс 1, это 13. Если мы говорим о мандале основных и промежуточных сторон света, а это всегда, да, так сказать, как бы символ некого космогонического содержания, поэтому он всегда ориентирован по сторонам света. Это 8 плюс зенит, надир, центр, но это опять не 12. И вот этот вот момент, он немножко, потому что вообще число 12, скажем, в отличие от 9, 16 и так далее, 3, разумеется, триплицированных 3, число 12 не является сакральным для индийской традиции, индийских текстов. Если об этом можно было бы поподробнее, было бы очень интересно.
Ну, я чуть-чуть могу сказать. Во-первых, честно говоря, я и как-то не оперирую понятием сакральный, потому что мандала не то, что сакральная, это просто схема экзистенции. И снаружи, и внутри мандала – это центр периферия, и мандала может быть, и я могу быть мандалой, и весь мир может быть мандалой. Это, так сказать, это резиновая шкала. Понимаете, ее можно вот так растягивать, и можно так собирать. Да. Или, скажем, мандала, кроме того, она фрактальна, потому что все 5 главных позиционеров раскладываются во многих, тоже в 5, а некоторые еще раз в 5. И, в общем, это только дальше не идут просто потому, что не обязательно, трудновато. Кроме того, все-таки, это первое. Второе, к мандалам не сводится такого рода опоры к мандалам. Но практически самутпада не есть мандала, хотя 12 звеньев практически самутпаде даны в оботе колеса сансара чакра, о которых я вовсе не говорил. Ну и, наконец, в мандале калачакры 12 такие есть, потому что она делится на мандалы отдельные ума, речи и тела, а мандал тела 12, каждая по своему месяцу, потому что калачакра связана еще с астрологией. Так что есть такое.
Да, спасибо большое. Калачакра – это, конечно, очень позднее представление о мандале и о ее символике, а буддизм, как вы знаете, в ведических текстах мандалы нет ни в одном из них, не как символа, не как части ритуальной практики. Это только пуджа, это только новый ритуал, и с одной стороны, да, мы даже не знаем, существовал ли он в полной мере во времена самого Будды, просто потому что, да, так сказать, этот вопрос, наверное, никогда не будет решен ни положительно, ни отрицательно вследствие наших датировок. Но для ранней мандалы, так как я ее себе представляю, число 12, вовсе никогда не было сакральным.
Понимаете, это я тоже могу сказать. Видите ли, как один мой коллега сказал, вот он историк культуры себя определил, а я логик культуры. Мне совершенно все равно, когда что возникло. Меня интересует зрелая форма. И как хорошо сказал когда-то Маркс, что ключ к анатомии обезьяны, или насчет ключа к анатомии обезьяны, анатомии человека. Человек более зрелая форма. Вот это калачакра более зрелая форма. Вот так.
Да, хорошо, спасибо большое.
Пожалуйста.
Еще раз могу повторить, что было замечательно интересно.
Спасибо.
Спасибо большое. Вопросы больше? Есть еще вопросы? Если вопросов больше нет, на сегодня программа у нас завершена. Завтра у нас в заседании интеллектуальный театр. Выступает Татьяна Иосифовна Аранская очно. Она здесь, в Индии. И Наталья Павловна Лихушина. Она попала в эту секцию, поскольку в другие дни она не могла. Вот. И далее у нас, собственно говоря, чтение санскритских текстов. Мы это еще обсудим, наверное. Завтра обсудим эту программу, как она будет проходить. Вот. Пока все идет по программе. С небольшим опозданием, ну, техническими проблемами такими. Но потихоньку мы их решаем. На сайте я уже выкладываю какие-то фотографии, не все удалось сфотографировать, поскольку после перелетов голова вообще, как говорится, была совершенно не до этого. Вот, но какие-то там доклады попали. И сейчас мы будем выкладывать то, что вот Катя нам выслала записи видеодокладов. А пока на сайте будут целые блоки, то есть первое заседание, второе, там такой-то день. А после того, как мы приедем в Москву, мы все разобьем поименно. Прям вот начало такой-то доклада, такая-то или такой-то человек, да, там полная инфляция. И, естественно, если вдруг я там напишу всем, согласны ли вы это опубликовать, если вдруг кто-то не хочет, мы, конечно же, не будем делать. Хорошо. Все, спасибо большое. Всего доброго. До свидания.
Розанна Владимировна, можно не касательно конференции, сегодня занятия надо вечером не ждать, да?
Да, я думаю, вот Андрей Васильевич очень хочет прочитать.
Хорошо. Тогда,
да, но я напишу в чате тогда. Если что, тогда он материал сбросит. А вы повторяйте то, что проходит. До свидания.
До свидания.